Bonjour les étudiants and welcome to this video on le passé composé. Now, this is a tense that we write in and we speak in whenever we're speaking in French, and it's very much like past tense in English with a few specific differences. So first off, let's talk tenses. We've talked about present tense, and that's what most of the verbs that you learn and use are in. So, j'aime la pizza, I love pizza, I love my cat, I eat sandwiches, things like that. Those are all present tense. In the past, we've also learned how to use futur simple, which is a way of talking about the future with aller, with an infinitive. So, for example, je vais manger le déjeuner. I'm going to eat lunch. Things like that. We also, in chapitre 8, have learned about how to use venir with an infinitive to talk about the recent past in a form called passé récent, which we'll talk about in a different video. But passé composé is another way of talking about the past, but this one is a little bit different in that with venir, if you'll remember, here's the present, and this is when it happened on a timeline, just a few seconds ago or a few minutes ago, extremely recent. However, passé composé doesn't quite work that way. Instead, this is an event that has a definite beginning and a definite end. Now, an easy way to think about this is a vacation. So summer's just happened and you may have gone somewhere. And if you have, then you would talk about it in le passé composé because there's a definite beginning and end. So for example, j'ai voyagé Fort Walton Beach. So I traveled to Fort Walton Beach. So there's a definite point where this journey began. There are things that happened during the journey. And then there's a point when I came home and the journey was over. Vacation was done. This is how we use passé composé. Now you might be thinking, okay, there's sometimes that I use things that are like in general, they happened in the past. Those are actually completely different method of conjugation, so don't worry about those right now. Right now we're talking about more concrete things. So don't stress out too much about this, but this is just a quick overview of what passé composé is, and let's get into how to use it. Now, passé composé is comprised of basically two things all the time whenever we make a sentence. The first thing when we're doing it avec avoir, not être, though we will talk about être as well in another video, is we're always going to have avoir plus a past participle. Now the past participle, don't worry too much about when it comes to the grammar ramifications of it, but just know that this is a version of a verb that we're adding after avoir. Think of it kind of like when you say, I have traveled there, things like that. Traveled, of course, being the past participle. Now, let's go ahead and actually apply this a little bit. So let's start off with voyager. There are a couple of different things I want to show you, but we'll start off with how this applies to this. So the first thing that you're going to notice is we have avoir ici, 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 in every one of these spots. And notice that it's conjugated. So j'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. Now notice that the next part is the same on each one of them. Basically, we took the word voyage, and instead of putting the ER at the end, we just put an E accent aigu. And it's that way on each and every one of them, whether it's j'ai or whether it's nous avons. They're all voyager, which is really, really handy because it makes it super simple. So basically, the general rule of thumb is when you have a regular ER verb, which thank God is the vast majority of the ER verbs in French. So let's put ER, it equals E accent aigu. So you can do this with pretty much anything. You know aimer? Well, it becomes, aimer avec accent aigu, ici. See? So it's not too bad. We will talk about a few irregulars in just a moment, but you know, there's always some irregulars, but thank God French is mostly regular. Now let's talk about les verbs en IR. Now with IR, you're going to notice that we do the same thing. J'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. But instead of taking this ending and making it an I accent aigu, we turn the IR into just an I. So instead of doing anything else, we end up with j'ai choisi, tu as choisi, il a choisi, nous avons choisi, vous avez choisi, ils ont choisi. So just changing that IR and making it into an I. Now, becomes a U. Yeah, I know that looks a little strange, but I promise it's okay. And actually, you're going to find that a lot of them end up with U, especially if you look at some of the different irregular ones. They turn into U's. It's pretty cool. So, we have j'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. And as you can see, they all become, let's see, perdre, which is to lose, becomes perdu. So, j'ai perdu, tu as perdu, il a perdu, nous avons perdu, vous avez perdu, ils ont perdu. So, the beautiful thing, most of these are going to follow this pattern. Avoir, conjugated, plus the past participle. Now let's talk about our sweet irregulars. You knew it was coming. So let's focus on the main four that we always talk about. Avoir, être, and faire. Now you are going to notice aller is missing. There's a reason for it, and actually it's because it goes with être in the passé composé. So when you learn passé composé avec être, that's where you'll find aller. We'll talk about that later though, so don't even think about that in the context of this video. Instead, let's focus on avoir, être, and faire. Now, just like we learned with the other regular ones, we do something very similar, except these words each become something completely different. So avoir becomes So j'ai tu as il est nous avons vous avons ils ont There you go. Same pattern, just adding this past participle to each one of them. Now with être, it becomes été. And actually, yes, it looks like the word for summer. It always kind of made me laugh, and it makes it a little bit easier to remember because it's a word that you already know. So we have j'ai été, tu as été, il a été, nous avons été, vous avez été, ils ont été. There you go. And then faire, as you can see, it actually takes one of the conjugations. If you remember the one for il, it takes that one and becomes fait. So, je fais, tu es fait, il est fait, nous avons fait, vous avez fait, ils ont fait. So as you can see, it's not too bad. And if you're looking for other irregulars that we have with the passé composé, you can find them in our book on page 211. This is a perfect place to take a look at all the other ones that you might need. There's one last thing that I want to show you when it comes to using le passé composé. Now, you might be thinking, what about when we want to add negation or n'est pas into a situation? Well, here's what's going to happen. Think of it this way. Avant, whatever the conjugated version of avoir is, that is the thing that is being conjugated. So that is the verb that gets the n'est pas around it. So, for example, nous avons voyagé en Suisse. I have visited or traveled to Switzerland. If you've never done it, like me, then you would say nous n'avons pas voyagé en Suisse. So notice that we have the ne here and the pas ici, and it's just around avant. Voyager is outside way over here, and that's okay. We want this to be around the verb that's conjugated, just like we do whenever we have an infinitive or anything like that. So same rules apply as usual. Always put the n'est pas around a conjugated verb. So that's all I've got for le passé composé avec avoir. Be sure to check out the video with the passé composé avec être. And if you have any questions or need any help, just let me know. Have a wonderful day.